Hello, my name's Scott Davis, and welcome to New World Birth. This is the weekly neutrino forecast for July 27th to August 2nd of 2014. On July 27th, we have the Sun. It's in Leo. It's also in the 31st hexagram, and you can see the stack of lines all the way out here on the side, and the stack for the 31st, of course, numbered from bottom to top. This one goes yin, yin, yang, 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 and yin. And the Sun in the 31st hexagram is mapped to an opening in the energy channel called a gate, which is the 31st gate of leading, influence, the law of friction, whether active or passive, that engenders transference and thus influence, is located in the throat center in a collective logic energy path in the understanding circuit called the channel of the alpha, a design of leadership for good or bad that connects down to the seventh gate of the role of the self, the army, the point of convergence by design, the need for leadership to guide and order society. And I found human design to be amazingly accurate in describing the person. So it's become my primary tool when I provide readings. And we have the following activated gates on July 27th. We have the Sun and Jupiter in the 31st. We have the Earth is in the 41st gate. The North Node in the 32nd, with the South Node in the 42nd gate. Mercury in the 53. Venus in the 39. Mars is in the 50th gate. We already mentioned Jupiter in the 31st. Saturn's in the first gate. Uranus is retrograde in the 51. Neptune is retrograde in the 37, and Pluto is retrograde in the 38. So obviously not every gate activation forms a channel, but this information can be very helpful if you know your own human design chart, because some of these transits will form channels with potentials in your personal body graph. And you can get your human design chart by going to jovianarchive.com and clicking on the button that says get your free rave chart, and then just enter in your birth information. So the neutrino forecast is really just a weather report, and no matter what the weather is, an individual's strategy and authority is the correct choice for having an authentic experience regardless of the program. And as Ra Uru Hu said, whatever the weather is going to be, you have your neutrino umbrella. As long as you're experimenting with your strategy and authority, the weather is for your pleasure. And as the week begins, we have one channel definition due to the transit field. We have with Mercury in the 53 and the South Node in the 42. This gives us the channel of maturation, the design of balanced development. It's really going to be here till July 27th, and then when Venus enters into the 53, we'll have it again, which brings energy to be cautious about starting something new. Which we've already kind of have that going on, as we've talked a lot about the nodes being in the 42nd gate and the 32nd gate, where it's really important that anything you enter into correctly, because these things can last for 9 years before the nodes return to the gates they're presently in. But this can really bring this kind of energy for people who have that in the birth chart, where they have to be careful about making some kind of commitment, because it's difficult to get out later. And typically the channel in the birth chart takes 7 years to go through the full cycle. So I've mentioned that it's kind of like Groundhog Day, where the experiences keep repeating, so that slowly you get to a state of maturity and wisdom. And the wisdom that life is a journey that never ends. So this is also affecting us, for those of us who are who do not have a sacral defined. This can make us feel like we're really busy and having the endurance to work. So once the definition goes away, we will be aware that this is no longer affecting us. And of course, for the people with the who don't have a defined route, having the defined route by the transit field can bring a level of pressure into your life as well. So we're going to be looking at the sun's daily Ravi-Ching line values, because 70% of the neutrinos we receive come through the sun. And as Ross said in Design Perspectives number 56 in his presentation titled Living with the Program with Ra Uruhu, the lines of the day, when he was talking about the shift of line values, he said we can always take advantage of the themes of the day. Now, if your strategy and authority doesn't really lead you in that direction, you can always just notice how the program's affecting others in your environment. So let's get started. On July 27th, we begin with the sun in the third line, the line of the martyr, again, 31st hexagram, where it's exalted naturally, but also detrimented because Jupiter is also in the 31st gate. And Jupiter's in the detriment in the third line, which is selectivity, exalted, the ability to carefully assess and choose the proper influence and to tailor one's behavior accordingly. The capacity to lead and enhanced through association with proper influences. Detrimented, qualitative selectivity with the risk of runaway enthusiasm that may lead to humiliation. The drive to lead that will accept any follower and the risks. And third line days, think about it. Third line day, we've got the martyr. It's a trial and error process, bonds made and broken. A system of discovery by figuring out what doesn't work. So it's also a very material day. So you got to be watched, aware that things can bump into you, whether it's a door or a car or somebody's elbow, or so again, trial and error process. And it can be good for business, but things can also go wrong. But those things that go wrong are really to lead us to discovery. And then later on the 27th, the sun moves into the opportunist fourth line of the 31st hexagram. This shift is at 6:33 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. I'm going to be giving all the times as Eastern Daylight Time, so you're going to want to convert that to your local time zone, where it is described as intent, the success of influence based on how it's perceived, exalted public acknowledgement of a nurturing and protective influence, external positive recognition of one's capacity to lead. Detrimented is perceived ego aggrandizement and attempted manipulation, external negative projection of one's capacity to lead. So fourth line days, we're shifting. We're moving from the lower trigram, the first three lines, to the upper trigram, the upper three lines. So the shift is moving from more of an inward perspective to more looking outward. The fourth line themes are friendship, companionship, networking. It's a good day for social interaction. People are more open to networking, being friendly and social. Now, also on the 24th, Mercury moves from the 53rd gate here up to the 62. Let's find a little bigger one here. Up here to the 62. So that with that, the transiting definition shifts. We talked about this before. Mercury is a messenger to the god. It's communication, it's expansion of human consciousness through communication, and not only through words. Ra talks about it being through music as well. And what do we communicate in this life? Well, we communicate the message of our design Mercury through the medium of our personality Mercury. So what might we find being communicated in the 60-second hexagram here? Well, the details, and hopefully the details are going to stay there. So this is the gate of detail, preponderance of the small, caution, patience, and detail produce excellence out of limitation. And Mercury is in the first line of the 62. It's routine, exalted, the ability to transcend boredom of routine through rich and daring fantasy life, the ability to organize detail through fantasy. Detrimented, it's rebellion and it's enormous waste of energy and the need to express, which ignores the details. And then on the 28th, we have the sun moving into the fifth line. So it's now moving into the line of the heretic. Again, still 31st hexagram. The shift happens at 6:05 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. The sun in the 31.5 is described as self-righteousness, lack of external influence guaranteed by attitude. Exalted, a natural specialization that only develops in isolation. However, the development is complete. The extremely difficult, and generally impossible task of externalizing the influence, a specialization that demands one lead oneself. Detrimented is a deep focus on personal experience that is self-fulfilling and has no external ambitions, a lack of ambition where one in content to where one is content to lead oneself. And a fifth line day is heretical. It's a day of suspicion, also of universalization, where something can lead out and spread rapidly, go viral like a Facebook post or a YouTube video. And there's a great deal of suspicion and paranoia in the fifth line on a fifth line day, which impacts the nature of relationships. Also, projection and seduction are themes of the fifth line day. And then on the 28th, the sun moves into the sixth line. So we're up here in the line of the role model of the 31. The shift happens at 5:36 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. The sun is exalted in the 31st gate in the sixth line of application. Exalted actions which match the words and thus guarantee success. Leadership whose expression and action must be one and the same. Six line day, again, Rod talks about don't get stuck with your head in the clouds because something will end up bumping into your kneecaps or your shins. So there's a day when there's a lack of focus on what's going on around us. People are looking beyond their immediate environment. They're looking at what's the next thing, not what's the thing right now. So they might not see a car coming. They might not see a bill coming. So also on the 29th, Mercury moves from the 62nd over to the 56th. And again, we talked about Mercury is really about communication. And so in the 56, what kind of things might be expressed when Mercury is there? Well, abstract thought being turned into language. This is the gate of stimulation, the wanderer, stability through movement, the preparation of continuity through the linking of short-term activity. Mercury, again, first line of the 56 here, which is quality, exalted, the practical sense that even short-term activities should be of value, expression of practical ideas that have value. Detrimented, the ego drive to make an impression that will misuse energy in trivial pursuits. The drive to stimulate that will express any idea, no matter how trivial. And also on the 29th, Mars changes gates, and Mars moves into the 28th gate here. Which, of course, brings us back to having the channel a struggle and a defined, wrong color, defined root center and splenic center. So anyway, the Mars is in the gate of the game player, preponderance of the great, the transitoriness of power and influence in the application of energy to detail, the intuition to potentially apply energy to detail, and Ross spoke about Mars being an extraordinary and immature energy resource that lacks refinement. It's subject to outbursts. Mars represents the warrior archetype. So by following our strategy and authority, we slowly refine the energy of our design and personality Mars from immaturity to wisdom. And of course, now that we've got Mars in the 28, we still have Pluto in the 38. We've got the channel of struggle that's going to be affecting us until August 8th. This brings experiences where people will struggle against overwhelming odds. It's like the archetypal hero's journey of fighting for purpose that empowers others to stubbornly fight for what holds meaning for them. It's about empowerment that comes from being who we're meant to be instead of following the conditioning of our families, schools, religions, governments. It's said to be death, so they don't hear the other and become distracted from their authentic path. For those again without the defined root center, this can bring a pressure, and the defined splenic center, brings intuition and well-being. Ra warned that non-splenic people may let go of something that is good for them during a transit defining the splenic center. And then on July 30th, we have the sun moving out of the 31st hexagram and into the 33rd. Of course, the 31st stays there because we still have Jupiter there. And we've got the Earth moving out of the 41 and moving into the 19. And the 19th gate is the gate of wanting approach. This shift happens at 5:08 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. The sun in the 33rd gate of privacy, retreat, active withdrawal, and the transformation of a weak position into a strength. And the sun's exalted in this first line of the 33. Which is avoidance, exalted the wisdom in a weak position to recognize that survival demands complete withdrawal, retreating when one realizes that they're in a weak position. So now that we're in a new hexagram, we enter in the first line, lower trigram again. People get really absorbed in their own process. First line days, it's about fear. It's about an anxiety that needs to be investigated. It's a day to study, not necessarily to act. It's a day to look into things, not to jump. It's a day to investigate something that you don't understand, can't make sense of, or don't know. It's a good day for research. And then also on the 30th, we have Venus moving from the 39th gate and into the 53rd gate as promised. And it's back. Like I said, Groundhog Day. Just keep repeating these things over and over again. So anyway, Venus is, Ra talks about Venus being very powerful, deeply misunderstood. It brings morality, natural law in which we deal with the other and the consequences of the world around us. And he was talking about what really disturbs you on a moral level. Your design and personality Venuses tell you about a moral dilemma you're going to work with in your life. And if you don't act with moral clarity, Venus can be very unkind in its retribution. And now Venus is in the 53rd gate of beginnings, development as a structured progression that is both steadfast and enduring. Venus is detrimented in the first line of the 53, which is accumulation, detrimented development, hampered by criticism and the tendency to withdraw rather than make use of these experiences. The difficulty in starting something new because of the criticism that accompanied the old. And then, of course, we've got Venus in the 53, South Node in the 42. This is giving us, again, this gate of maturation, design of balanced development. This one will be here until August 4th. again, so it's about being careful about making commitments, which we all should be anyway. Just having the nodes placed in the 42 and the 32. Make sure that any commitment that you enter into, you're entering into correctly by following your strategy authority. Uh, because the channel usually takes 7 years to work through things. With the nodes there, it can take up to 9 years. So to me, this time period that we're currently in is key for following your strategy and authority, and having the experiences that are correct for you. So even if it's going to last 9 years, at least it's 9 years where you're doing something that is appropriate for who you are and your authentic being. And on the 31st, the sun moves up into the second line of the 33rd hexagram. This shift is at 4:39 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. The sun in the 33-2 is described as surrender, exalted. The recognition that surrender to superior forces can be an opportunity to expand one's strength and eventually triumph, embracing powerful forces in order to lay the foundation for future success. Detrimented, unlike the reasoned and calculated surrender of the exaltation, the deeper and personal surrender, the feeling that one's original position was a delusion, and the impressionability that makes might right, a public embrace of powerful forces, and a private resentment of their power. Second line days, again, everybody's waiting for something. They're waiting for a call. They're stuck in their own trip, probably wanting just to hang out and be a homebody. So it might not be a great day to have a big party or celebration, because people really just want to hang out at their hermitage. And then on August 1st, the sun moves into the third line. So we moved from the line of the hermit into the line of the martyr of the 33rd hexagram. This shift is at 4:10 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, which is spirit, the attitude that turns retreat into victory, exalted, the responsibility and principled retreat based on preservation, but with determination to persevere, privacy as a path to success. Detriment, a lack of responsibility in retreat. The bridge burner, a drive for privacy that will cut off relationships, often abruptly. Now, third line days, we talked about it earlier, be careful on the roads, be careful of what's going on in your environment. Things can bump into you. When bonds can be made or broken, or both. Again, trial and error process, the material day. Be careful, because things can go wrong, but the purpose of things going wrong is to lead towards into discovery. And then also on the first, Mercury's moving very quickly here, and it leaves the 56 and joins Jupiter in the 31. Again, messenger of the gods, communication is what Mercury is about. In the 31, it's probably going to be communicating about leadership. It's the gate of leading influence, the law of friction, whether active or passive, that engenders transference and thus influence. Mercury in the 31-1 is a manifestation. Influence cannot exist in a vacuum. Exalted, the sun does not and cannot hold back its light, thus its influence on every life. The natural expression of leadership. Detrimented, the absorption of light, the darkness that can only promise manifestation, the unnatural expression of leadership. And then on the second, the sun moves into the fourth line. So again, we're moving from lower trigram to upper trigram, again in the 33rd gate. The shift happens at 3:41 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, where it's described as dignity, a lack of turmoil in retreat, exalted the underlying faith in resurrection that turns retreat into an opportunity for renewal and regeneration. The healthy retreat for regeneration, detrimented without the guiding light of resurrection, the inevitable disillusion that leads to degeneration, forced to retreat, and unable to see the regenerative qualities. Fourth line days, again, we're shifting from an inward perspective of the lower trigram to more of an outward perspective of the upper trigram. And as we mentioned before, the themes are friendship, companionship, networking. I think Ross said, look, if you've been trying to call somebody and haven't reached them for, fourth line days are actually a day when you might be more likely to connect with somebody who you've had difficulty getting a hold of. Good for social interaction, networking, being friendly, all of those things. So this week we're continuing moving through the hexagrams of the 62, the 56, the 31, and the 33, which are all the gates that are associated with the Muat God's head, the Egyptian goddess of truth, order, law, balance, morality, and justice. And Muat was covered in detail 2 weeks ago. So we're wrapping up the quarter of civilization. So next week we're going to be exploring the quarter of duality and the Thoth Godhead. So anyway, no matter what these energies are conditioning you during the week, just remember this experience is about being a passenger that's riding in a vehicle driven by the magnetic monopole. So enjoy the scenery. Let the vehicle take you where you need to go through using your strategy and authority. Every day we have is a blessing, no matter what the dramas that are backing to distract us. We're all here just giving the performance of a lifetime on this world stage. Just remember to observe the play, observe your movie, as well as act your part by remembering you're a spiritual being who's having a human experience. I want to thank you for checking out New World Birth. The next segment of the weekly neutrino forecast will be for August 3rd of 2014, should be available by the 2nd, when we're going to continue to look at the influence of the heavenly bodies as they transit the sky and the hexagrams of the I Ching. And you can check us out on Facebook or Blogger or YouTube. And I encourage you to share this information as videos or as text as widely as you choose. I'll also be discussing the transits of August 2014 and provide some short 10 to 15 minute human design readings to the participants of the Earth Needs Rebels show on Truth Frequency Radio on Friday, August 1st. I invite you to contact me at newworldbirth@yahoo.com if you have any questions and wish to schedule a reading. And if you've been thinking about getting a reading, please contact me. I'd love to provide you a reading during these uncertain times. You'll need to be able to either call me in Maine in the USA, or we can connect it with Skype to receive your reading. We're accepting donations to keep these reports freely available. To me, the best way you can make a donation is get a reading. So as always, I'm blessed that you've taken the time to connect with my passion for all these ancient mysteries and their application to our journey during this incarnation. The light in me honors the light in you. Namaste, in Lakesh, and as Ra would say, love yourself. So anyway, peace everybody, and hope to connect with you soon. Bye.